In this self-nip bobbly da baba dee ba doo doo. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Hakeem Alibokus Alexander for HypnoAthletics, Exercising Your Mind. On this channel, I don't normally put up any videos, but I have something really powerful that I'm launching, and it's my N3 plus N5A program, and that's my shorthand for Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists. So it's a program that I'm launching called Neutralizing Negative Narcissist, and it's simple. It might be difficult to do. It has a lot of moving parts, but the last part of each phase is actually passive, where you can relax. You prepare yourself first, and then you get to sit back and receive the therapy. So here's how it works. I don't need to explain to anybody what narcissistic personality disorder is, or maybe I do, but I'm not going to. I would suggest that you look it up. One great psychologist, a clinical psychologist that teaches about this is a Dr. Ramani, and her channel's on YouTube, and she gives some amazing explanations about narcissists and narcissistic personality disorder. And so if you want to find out about that, go to her channel. I know that there's a video called How to Spot a Narcissist, where she has a 50-minute interview, and it's called Protect Yourself from Narcissists. But I'm sure if you go on there and maybe type in how to find a narcissist, maybe I'll find a good link that might be a more brief description for you. But anyway, back to Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists. And there's a very specific reason why I use those two terms before the word narcissist. And neutralize. To neutralize means to make something inert, or to make something ineffective. Or in this case, and what this therapy is really all about, is to render yourself so authentic that that it feels like that the narcissist is neutral, has been neutralized. So it's not necessarily that you're doing something to somebody else, but it's more like because of your authenticity that it feels like they've been neutralized. So and then the second word is naughty, right? I very specifically use that because that word means like bad, misbehaving, not just mischief. I mean, people use the word with children all the time, naughty, but no, it really means, it's very unwell behaved. It's bad behavior. And then narcissist, these are people that cause a lot of problems, a lot of emotional pain, and many times they are unaware that they're doing it unless it's combined with other psychopathologies like sociopathy, being a sociopath, or psychopathy, being a psychopath, or any number of other things, because there could also be someone who's very self-aware, but then that they could either be a psychopath or a sociopath, but a narcissist at the same time, and still doing these things to other people. And then there's something called the dark triad, where a person's a sociopath, a Machiavellian, and a narcissist. But I won't get into, like I said, Dr. Ramani, she's the expert. I'm a clinical hypnotist. She's a clinical psychologist. We have a similar realm of activity, a similar scope, but her scope of practice is different from mine. I have a very specific scope of practice, and where I work mainly as a behavioral scientist, as a professional belief system enhancer, working mainly with the subconscious mind. And I also, my main thing that I do is metaphysical hypnosis and meditation for the purposes of relaxation, getting better sleep, lucid dreaming, and other things beyond that, like out-of-body experiences. So anyway, So back to, okay, so how do we neutralize a naughty narcissist? So this program consists of a 3x3 matrix, which means that each part, there's 3 parts, and each one of those 3 therapies, or those 3 modalities, those 3 sections, the 3 therapies that you'll go through, each one of those has 3 parts to it. So each section, each segment is for a different purpose, but the way that you go through the therapy is the same. So for example, part 1 is called Neutralizing Narcissism. And in Neutralizing Narcissism, the purpose of this is, first of all, you know what's even better? I'll start with the 3-part process that goes into each one, and then I'll talk about what each part is. So there's different levels. Let's call them levels. So by the way, I don't know if I mentioned that in the beginning of this video. I haven't even launched it yet. I haven't even created the parts of it yet. There's an audio part that you need to listen to that I haven't even created yet, but I have the full structure of what the course is. Right now, I don't even know if I'm going to publish this video, but I'm making it now in a large part as a note for me to be able to practice articulating what it is, but also if I think that it's okay, I'll publish it. So the three steps in each level, the first, and I call them BAL, like as in the word balance, and then there's actually going to be another part of it where I use the full word balance as an acronym. But right now, BAL, the first part is breathe. The first part is breathe. And what's the purpose of breathing? Okay, in each one of these levels, breathing is like nutrition. It's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual nutrition. And there's many reasons for that. Maybe I can go through that really quickly. So of course, as you know, breathing in, you have to breathe. If you don't breathe, you don't live, right? So physically, you know that's something that you need for your physical body. Emotional. How is it emotional nutrition? Well, we can change the state. We can change the way that we feel by using breathing techniques. You know, when a person's angry, they breathe differently than when a person's relaxed. When a person is sad, they breathe differently than when they're joyful. So we know that can be emotional nutrition as well. How is it mental nutrition? Well, emotions are very related to your mentality. So when you're able to change your emotional state, many times when you're in a destructive emotional state, you don't think as clearly, your memory is not as good, and you don't make really good decisions. I know that personally, that if I'm not in a good emotional state, it really throws me off, and it kind of can go into a negative feedback loop where you continue to feed the negative emotions, which then or starve. You feed the negative emotions and starve the ability to think. So breathing and for your emotional body is also good for your mental body, as well as, if we want to talk about, those are both connected physically too, because you feel your emotions in your physical body as well as it being something more than that, which is going to be the last part. But it's also something mental, which is related to your brain, even though I consider that the mind is something separate from, but does interact with the brain. But the brain does need breath, and it's part of your physical body, and that is related to your emotions. And then the last part is spiritual. Well, how is breathing spiritual nutrition? Well, I can go back to Ayurveda and the Vedic mysteries from ancient India, and yoga, which I'm a practitioner of. My own brand of yoga is called DAY, or Dream Action Yoga, which I call exposing the conditioned personality. And I've actually fallen off of doing a lot of my practices for a long time, and it put me in a very dark place for a while. I was in a very dark and vulnerable place for a while, and I allowed myself to behave very, very much in a naughty way. I was very bad behaved. But I'm thankfully glad I'm pulling myself out of that now, and I'm able to think so much clearly, and so much more creativity is coming out very, very quickly, and a lot of good things are happening. So again, so how is breathing spiritual nutrition? Well, in the ancient Indian philosophy, there's something called pranayama, which is basically breathing meditation. And this breathing meditation, when you have alignment of your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, all of that helps you to be more connected to your spiritual body. But it's a two-way two-way benefit. It's something that's not only top down, but from the bottom up. When you breathe, if you think about the physical body as the bottom and the spirituality as something high, if we want to use those kind of directions, it's helpful for both. If you're spiritually connected enough to breathe, it's going to help your mind, it's going to help your emotions, and it's going to help your body. But if you're at least physically prepared to be able to breathe, it's going to help your emotions, your mind, and your spirituality. And any one of those reasons, if you have any reason for breathing, if you have an emotional need to practice a breathing meditation, it's going to help your body, your mind, and your spirituality. And if you can just mentally put yourself into a state where you're breathing, it's going to help the other parts too, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So that's the first part. I know that's a lot that I said, but I'm so excited. This is going to be so amazing when it comes out. And I'm going to recap the steps in a much more simple way. I do have notes here. And right now I'm really elaborating on them a lot, but I'm going to sum it up, towards the end, and hopefully this won't go on too much longer. But that's the first step in each level. Each level has the same steps, and at least for right now, but what I think it's perfect as a 3x3 matrix. Okay, so that's breathing, and the breathing prepares you for the next step, which is affirm. That's the A part, affirm. And the affirming part, why are we affirming something? Well, because we are changing our receptivity to certain things. We're changing, and when I say changing our receptivity, meaning changing how we receive information. Just like how different people have different immune systems, I could be on an elevator with 10 people, and there's one sick person there, and when I get off the elevator, 6 of the people that were in there are sick, were maybe only me and 2 other people didn't get sick, because everybody has a different immunity. And so the affirmation part, to affirm, is another way of changing the receptivity. And going back to breathing, remember, it's nutrition. If you're not well, if you don't feel good, sometimes it's good to, like in Ayurveda, the ancient Indian practice, that says food is medicine, medicine is food. You might not eat as much, or just drink water, or fast and rest. But also sometimes there are certain things that you do eat to change the state of your body. You eat dry foods if you're too moist. You eat cold foods if you're too hot, so on and so forth. There's too much heat. So the affirmations, to affirm, is changing your receptivity. It's kind of building your immune system, or even changing not only your receptivity, but it's also changing the way that you transmit information. So you're changing the way you receive and the way you transmit information. And it also is going to activate or open the channels that are needed for the next and final step, which is listen. And this is the most passive part of it. But it also takes the longest of the first 2. The first, and here's why: because both the breathing and the affirmation, for each level, you're only going to do them for a certain number of times that you label with a number, either by saying it out loud or marking it off on paper. You either say it out loud or you say it in your head, but you have to say the number after it. Like, for example, and I didn't calculate the frequencies for these yet, for what the listening part is, but let's just say, for example, that the first one is called Neutralizing Narcissism. And whatever the frequency that I've found for that, there's going to be a certain number that goes with it. Let's just say, for right now, that it's 2. And so what you would do is you would breathe in, and when you breathe out, you say 1, either out loud or in your head. You breathe in, and you say 2 either out loud or in your head. And this is going to be very specifically prescribed based on whatever the frequencies happen to turn out for these specific therapies. Okay? And the same thing is going to be for the affirm, because the affirm, you're going to say something either in your head or say it out loud. And then whether you say it in your head or you say it out loud, you're still going to attach a number to it. So let's just say, for example, for level 2, which is nurturing authenticity, maybe that's 3, right? So you're going to say those words. I nurture authenticity. 1. I nurture authenticity. 2. I nurture authenticity. 3. And that's how that works. And it's a very prescribed, and you only do it for that amount of numbers for each one. And then the next level, level 3, which is neutralizing narcissists, let's just say that is 4. It comes out with a frequency of 4. Remember, I'm just saying this arbitrarily because I have not even created the frequencies or even calculated what they should be yet. Then you would say neutralizing narcissist. Neutralizing, or you could say narcissists if you want to generalize more, but if you have a specific person in mind, you can think about that person and say neutralizing narcissist, or neutralizing narcissist 1, neutralizing narcissist 2, neutralizing narcissist 3, neutralizing narcissist 4. And you, once again, you only say it for that prescribed amount of times. And so each one is going to have, for right now at least, it looks like it might have the same amount of breaths that you do as you do the affirmations. But somehow when I do these frequencies, they come out with some very interesting combinations, so they actually might be different. So, for example, for neutralizing narcissism, you might only say that and then give it a number 1 afterwards. Whereas you might breathe and only give it a number 1 afterwards, but when it comes to the affirm part, it might be 1 and 2. And so each level might have a different number for the breathing and the affirming part. And then step 3 in each one of these levels, in each program, you can call them call them levels or therapies. So neutralizing narcissism is the first program, and you're gonna do that, breathe, affirm, and then listen. And so now what are you listening to? You're listening to a frequency sound design that I've created based on binaural beats and isochronic tones. So binaural beats are basically when you have a frequency in one ear. Let's say you have 100 hertz in your right ear, or 100 cycles per second in your right ear, and you have 103 cycles per second in your left ear. Your brain's going to give you an auditory hallucination of 3 cycles per second. That's the difference between 100 and 103. And what that does is it causes your brain to synchronize together. And the isochronic tones that are going to be chosen are based on the language that's used in the therapy. Like, it's actually based on the words neutralizing narcissism. Everything, just like language, there's for example, a wizard or sorcerer or sorceress, a priestess can cast spells. Sometimes I like to say that the word spell, and other people have said it before, is like spelling words. The words that we speak are magical depending on how we speak them, but actually they're always magical. The way that we say words to ourselves and the way that we say words to others, whether it's in our head or we say them out loud, they have a magic which means they have an effect on us, which is why the second step in each one of the programs or each one of the levels is to affirm. We have to make sure we say a specific thing each time, which is really just the title of the program. You want to keep it simple, and you say it for a certain amount of times because it matches the frequency sound design that's created with binaural beats, isochronic tones that are very specific tones to that match with the affirmation, and the binaural beats, which are also based on the frequency of those affirmations, and these are my specific brand of binaural beats, which are very heavily inspired by hemisync, which is short for hemispheric synchronization, which is the synchronization of the right and the left sides of your brain, which was pioneered by Robert Monroe, and which is now has the Monroe Institute in Virginia, one of my home states. And so my DemiPhase is heavily based on that, and also the work of an associate of mine, Lee Spusta, who was also a graduate of the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, where I graduated from in Tarzana, California, to get my degree in clinical hypnotherapy in 2006. He also works very much with binaural beats and isochronic tones, and basically meta music and sound design for healing and hypnosis. And so that's, once again, like I said, that's the most passive part of it, where you're going to listen to those frequencies. So I believe I can. Oh yeah, and the listening part has a very specific thing. You have it's best if you use headphones, or if you can have really good speakers that are positioned on either side of your head, so you can get that stereo effect, because there's going to be two different things coming into your ears. And you also have to adjust the volume properly so that you're listening at a comfortable volume. It's not heavy metal music or rock and roll music, although there's something I have to say about rock afterwards, which is this last part, our settings. I found, because I have a Samsung Galaxy phone, and I found at some point in time, I thought there was something wrong when I was listening back to frequency sound designs, what I call DemiPhase or demi-cerebral neural phasing. I would listen back to them, and I was confused at why I wasn't hearing what I created. And so first of all, these sound designs are very much specifically created for use with headphones, or if you have a really good surround sound system. But the settings are very important. I found that the settings I had on the phone, there was like a setting that was, I don't know if it was called neutral or something like that in the Galaxy. It's in the Samsung Music Player app that comes built into the phone, which is actually really good, by the way. Whatever the setting was, it wasn't any good. So I started going through the presets. I clicked on like classical, jazz, and finally when I hit on rock, all of a sudden, like everything that I had put in there came out. And I noticed if I put too much, if I turn the dial for like a custom, equalization, so a custom equalizer, if I put too much bass or too much mid or too much treble or something like that, it started to mask some of the frequencies that were there, so something sounded flat or completely disappeared. And so that's how specific and precise this has to be. So now now that I've elaborated on this a lot, and we're here 22 minutes and 33 seconds in, I'm gonna summarize it again, exactly what this program is. So it's called Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists. Oh boy, there's a little bit more to elaborate on though. It not only can help you, if you are a person who's here to find help or some kind of relief from a person that exhibits narcissistic tendencies or behaviors, or even is diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder in your life, someone who's causing you problems because of narcissistic behaviors, this will definitely help you. This program is incredible in its simplicity of what you have to do, but in the way of how it's effective, because I've actually been working this before with other frequencies that I've had, using the same steps of breathe, affirm, and listen, and doing those three steps, because at first I was just listening to the sound designs that I was doing, but when I added the breathe first, the affirm, and then the listen, it was just like completely new things started to happen. And so the second person that could actually help people who are either diagnosed or maybe suspect or have even been accused of being narcissists. So let's say, for example, I'm a narcissist, right? I've been accused of being a narcissist, and that's hurtful. And a lot of the things that were pointed out to me were really, it was really painful to hear that I was behaving in that way. And so this was partly inspired by that, because I don't believe that there's no help for anyone. Because one of the things that's said about narcissists is that there's no way to help them. And that's a very damning thing. I mean, I don't want to believe that. I think that everyone should be able to be helped with the problems that they have in their life. So that's part of where this comes from. Hold on for a second. So that's in part of where this comes from. Because I think that it's possible that a person could be aware enough to want to actually change their behavior and actually do something really. I think people can change. And so this was partly inspired by that. So it can help not only a person who's a victim of narcissistic abuse, of what it's often called, and a victim, but I believe that it can also help a person who's a narcissist if they just do the things that the program says. If you can actually just mentally or intellectually get yourself to practice these things, it's going to be a huge help to you. And so that's it. So now here's the overview again of what this program of Neutralizing Naughty Narcissist is. It has 3 programs, or 3 sub programs that we can call 3 levels, because they also have to be done in that order for a very specific reason. And then each level has 3 steps within it. So it's a 3, 1, 2, 3 by 3 matrix, like a tic-tac-toe thing, right? Excuse me. And each one of them, you do the same steps. You breathe for the purpose of giving yourself physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual nutrition, sort of to strengthen yourself for the next steps that are to come. Then once you've done the breathing for a certain amount of times that are going to be prescribed based on the frequency, then the next thing, I heard some really strange noise. Then step 2 in each one of the levels of the program is going to be to affirm, which is also going to have a number that is assigned or prescribed based on the frequency of the level. And then the last part is listen, which is more neutral, where you actually get to receive like a therapy, where you actually get to receive the benefit of what you've prepared for through the breathing, the affirming, and then you get to sit back and listen. And so the way that you're going to do it is you're going to do each level of the program, and you can stop after you do the first level and wait. You don't have to do it all like back to back or all on the same day, although it's not going to hurt you. As far as I can tell, there's never been any negative side effects of using binaural beats or even of my demi-cerebral neurophasing, with the one exception, if you call it, can be a negative side effect. They can be, you can grow a dependency on them. They can be kind of habit forming. I do know that I constantly want to listen to them, and I think part of that though is because I'm kind of surprised at the fact that I've been creating so many of these things, and so you kind of get attached to your own creations. But I've noticed, I know several other people that just can't stop listening to them, and in a very short period of time, I've had almost 10,000 downloads in just like a 2-month period of putting these up. Excuse me, my sinuses right now. So I know they can be habit forming, and a lot of people want to receive them. And so, for example, in step 1, neutralizing narcissism, I want to elaborate on that part a little bit. The reason why this is step 1 is because what you're doing is you're neutralizing how you react or receive narcissism, and that's where the breaths come in, and then where the affirmation comes in, because you have to kind of shut it down. You have to neutralize it for a moment, right? Or at least to input neutralizing forces through mind and through your body, the breathing, and through your emotions and your mind and your spirit by doing the breathing and the affirmations, so that you can at least pave the way for the last part to listen, so that you can actually be more receptive to the listening part. And then the same thing you're going to do over and over again for nurturing authenticity. And I want to elaborate on authenticity because there's 4 main points I want to talk about authenticity. And I also want to thank Dr. Ramani for pointing this out in her really amazing videos. I've watched 3 of her videos about authenticity so far, because when I looked at one of them, it really resonated with something that was going on. And so I realized that this is something that can actually, because you need to be empowered. Because, it's one thing to neutralize like a disease, for example, right? Like this is what a lot of modern medicine is about like cutting out cancer and like burning it and poisoning it, right? It's a way of neutralizing it. Like in the military, they use this as a soft word for kill, right? Neutralize the target, like blow something up, the target's neutralized, or they kill somebody, they shoot somebody in the head, target neutralized. Now, forgive me for those graphic descriptions, but it's also why that in the middle, the second part has to be nurturing. This is again like nutrition. You want to nurture authenticity. Yes, you want to neutralize the narcissism and the narcissist, and that's the sandwich that you're doing. The first thing is you're protecting yourself. It's a form of self-preservation where you neutralize narcissism. It's kind of like, in this part, it's like really like taking a medicine. Like you put the nutrition of the breathing, you make the affirmation that makes it easier for you to receive than the next therapy. It's like, I could make this an example like in the like COVID vaccines, like the COVID-19 vaccines, right? You go get one, and then you got to wait a little while, and you go get another one, right? So that's what this is kind of like. You take one medicine, which is the breathing, and then you do the affirmations, and like maybe taking some rest. People between vaccines, I don't know how it works. I haven't gotten vaccinated yet. And then the second part, so maybe that's not such a good example. And then the second vaccination that you get is the listening, because you've taken the rest, or you've drank the water, or went to sleep, or whatever, and take the second part. And you're neutralizing. But for part 2, you have to nurture. And there's a really good story of the indigenous people in the North American continent, about 2 wolves that exist within every person being, and it roughly goes like this: that there are 2 wolves within each person, one good wolf and one bad wolf. And there was a story of a grandfather was telling his grandson this story, and his grandson said, which wolf wins? Oh, because the grandfather, the story goes that there's 2 wolves, or 2 monsters within each person that are constantly fighting. And then the grandson asks which one wins, and the grandfather wisely says, the one that you feed. And so this is why you have to nurture authenticity. You have to feed that. And that's why there's breathing and affirmations and listening to see, because all of that stuff, there's a lot of feeding good stuff. There's only actually 2 parts of this that are actual neutralizing, and I might add a third, which I actually think I'm going to. A fourth, frequency, but there's 3 of them so far. But nurturing authenticity. What is authenticity? Well, one thing that authentic people don't do, so this is one habit that you'll be thinking about when you're nurturing your authenticity, is learning not to take things personally. Realizing that something that a person who is narcissistic or has narcissistic tendencies or narcissistic personality disorder does has absolutely nothing to do with you directly. It has to do with how they perceive you and what they want. It's very selfish. So it's learning how not to personalize those things. And again, I think I mentioned this, but thanks to Dr. Ramani, and I'll put some links. I should put this in my blog page and put some links into this as well. And then the second thing, is that part of the reason why authentic people, and why you want to nurture authenticity to become more authentic yourself, is because authentic people have a humble self-confidence, not so bothered by, what's going on around, or what other people are doing, or what a narcissist might be doing. Don't fall for the tricks so much. And this is a very powerful thing to have, is to build up nurture that authenticity, so that you can not only be self-confident, but be humble and just be cool about it. And third part of nurturing authenticity is being tactful. It's it's when people are exhibiting narcissistic behaviors, when they're gaslighting, when they're baiting, when they're hoovering, when whatever all this other stuff is going on. I'm not the expert in this. I'm an expert at therapy and behavioral things that can help you with stuff, but I'm not necessarily an expert in narcissism, unless we consider the truth that I may be a narcissist myself and that this program is going to help me. They're very tactful. Being authentic is being very tactful, meaning that, you can easily maneuver your way out of a situation that's uncomfortable, and that's because you also have a humble self-confidence, which is then related to the fourth part, which is integrity. It's that you know who you are, you know what you want, and you know when to get in and out of situations that are not really nurturing to you. So that's the second part, nurturing authenticity, which is really the whole program is about nurturing yourself with the breathing, the affirmations, and the listening. And then the last part is neutralizing the narcissist themselves. Now again, you're not actually doing something to somebody else, but by the time at the end you've done all of this and you affirm neutralizing the narcissist, you begin to put off an energy, and because of you become more authentic, and you have those 4 traits of not taking things personally, or at least you're getting there, because nothing's immediate, right? As a professional belief system enhancer, as a clinical hypnotist, one of the things that I have to caution, and remember this is just a preliminary video of me getting this idea out, is of the fact that you have to realize that everything comes with incremental change. Some people are going to have results much more quickly than other people. Some people might listen to the program once and practice the things once, and they'll have a huge boost of immunity against narcissistic input. But some people might take 10 times or 20 times. But the point is that you have to have faith in it and use it often, so you can realize the incremental change. This is also one of the reasons why one of my programs is called HypnoAthletics, exercising your mind, because it's just like going to the gym or practicing a sport, being an athlete. If you were a person who was an aspiring athlete and you wanted to do something, let's say you wanted to become a bodybuilder, it doesn't just happen overnight. You go to the gym, you start learning how to lift the weights. Maybe you pick up a very light weight, like 1 or 2 kilos, right? And maybe you move a curl or do something like that with like 3 or 4 to 5 times, and that's it. But if you keep doing that, every day or every other day in a wise way where you're not overtraining, whatever, eventually it comes like, a month or 2 later where that same 1 or 2 kilos feels super light to you. But did the kilos get light? Did Earth's gravity suddenly become less? No, it's not. You got stronger, so it feels easier to you. The weight didn't actually become less weight. You got stronger. So that's why HypnoAthletics, exercising your mind, and that's the idea behind incremental change, or incremental change is the idea behind exercising your mind, and the idea of exercise, that is something that you have to do over and over again. It's practice, right? Like you've heard before, practice makes perfect. So where was I? Yes, nurturing authenticity, neutralizing narcissists. Right. Oh yes, that was the last part. So you're not actually doing something to the other person, although from what I hear, if you are an authentic person, a narcissist may take it personally and think you're actually doing something to them. So, but in a way you can neutralize them by not personalizing things, having a humble self-confidence, being tactful, and having integrity, knowing who you are and what you want. And a lot of those things are they feed into each other, just like the breathing feeds in, body, emotions, mental, spiritual. These things are very cyclical. Once you start pulling in like a lot of good habits, good nutrition begets good nutrition, right? Like good habits bring other good habits, good emotions bring other good emotions. And so that's what the program is based on there. And I believe I might add a 4th frequency pack to that could be a general one. But again, you listen to one, and you can do it like one day. You can make it a 3-day program for yourself. You can listen to one of the levels, right, and do the breathing, affirming, and listening, and then put it aside, and then plan the next day that you're going to do level 2 of nurturing authenticity, right? And then you do the breathing, the affirming, and the listening to that. When you finish, set it aside and just kind of feel what's going on there. And then step 3, neutralizing narcissists. You do that, listen to it, and you set it aside. And then you can maybe take a day off and then maybe do it again, 1, 2, 3 days on, 1 day off. Or you can go back to back, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and just keep on repeating. Again, like I said, there's no negative side effects except for, people just can't get enough of it. They're always using them constantly. And even me personally, I use them all the time. I was on a train today. I went for an interview in another city called Changyu here in China. I left Hangzhou, went to a city called Changyu, which is in a bigger city called Shaoxing. And on the train, that's what I was doing. I was listening. And then you do number 3. And, you can do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's not going to be a problem. Sometimes you might want to take a break so you can reflect and think about how you feel and how it's affecting you. And then I think it's going to be a good idea for me to create a 4th one that where it can just be completely just more passive, where you can just put it on and know that the name of it is going to be Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists. So it'll be like a title track of like an album, right? So the album's going to be called, because these are frequency sound designs using binaural beats, isochronic tones, right? So this album will be called Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists. But remember, it's a therapeutic album because there's steps that you have to take. There's active steps because 2 parts are numbered and active, which is the breathing and affirming, and the listening is the passive. But I'll create one that maybe you can just, if you want to, just know this is for just think to yourself, this is for neutralizing naughty narcissists. That's what I'm listening to. I'm neutralizing naughty narcissists. And in a way, that's kind of active too, because you're thinking about it. But I might make a 4th one where you just listen, sometimes where you don't have to, do all the other first steps, even though they're very simple and they're not going to take a long time. And look, hey, in the age of COVID-19, let me practice good habits. That's why, wiping on the sleeve. But I also have my trusty 70+% solution of alcohol. So that's it. We have a program, an album coming out called Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists. And it has 3 main therapies or therapeutic modalities. Neutralizing narcissism, nurturing authenticity, and neutralizing narcissists, which for each one of them you have 3 steps, which is breathe, affirm, and listen. And there's numbers, so there's basic counting you have to do, a little tiny piece of arithmetic. But that's it. I'm going to do all the math in creating these frequencies, these sound designs. I'm going to get right on that. So today, let's see, so I can hold myself accountable, I'm actually going to publish this video, even though I feel a little bit self-conscious about it. But today, where I am now, it's 7 minutes after 8 p.m. On May 22nd here in Hangzhou, China. So we'll see how quickly, and I'm not going to rush it. I want to do a good job of it. But I'm going to hold myself to it to get this program out. So get ready, everybody. Neutralizing Naughty Narcissist is coming out. It can help you if you're the victim of narcissistic abuse, or even if you are a narcissist yourself, or even have been accused of being a narcissist, or if you want to make sure that you don't. It can be helpful. All you have to do is follow the steps, and it will be helpful. And I want to really kind of touch on why that is. Because when you do something with intention, which this program has the intention of neutralizing naughty narcissist, right? If you actually take these steps and you have this understanding that this is the intention of what it's for, remember I'm a professional belief system enhancer, when you believe that it will neutralize naughty narcissist, whether it's you attempting to neutralize a narcissist that's from outside of you that's hurting you, or whether you believe that you are been diagnosed and you are aware enough or have enough remorse that you want to do something about it. If you actually do the steps, because it's simple, if you actually just do it with the intention, your intention by doing that is some way telling yourself that you believe it. And just like with a placebo response, one of the biggest things about a placebo is where somebody could take a capsule filled with water and be told that it's a pain relief pill, and when they take it, they feel the relief of pain, is because they intend to take it to relieve their pain. And because an authority figure like a Dr. Ramani, or a clinical hypnotist like certified clinical hypnotist Hakeem tells you, and by the way, my name Hakeem means doctor, and I'm also working on a PhD too, so yay. But if an authority figure tells you something like that, then you believe it, and then when you believe, you have an expectation. And these are, in hypnosis, these are things that are very, very powerful, that are not often, as far as I've seen, talked about with the placebo response. You have an intention. I'm intending to take this to relieve my pain. And why? Because some authority figure, either on a package that you bought in a store, or if you're doing it for a placebo, it's usually given to you by a medical doctor, right? And so then you take the placebo and you believe because they told you, and because you believe, you expect. And so you're waiting for this result, and very often it happens. So you got to start with that intention, whether or not you are the victim of narcissistic abuse, or whether you feel like, or well, I don't know if narcissists feel like it, if you've been accused of, if you might suspect of, if you're not sure, if you just want to do something about it, this will definitely help because of those things I talked about of intention, belief, expectation, and that's my wheelhouse. I am a clinical hypnotist. I work with the subconscious mind. I'm a behavioral scientist. I've also been doing this for 15 years, since 2006, professionally. And I've gotten a lot of amazing results with my clients for a whole range of many things, but which of now my specialty has been metaphysical hypnosis and meditation for relaxation, better sleep, lucid dreaming, astral projection. But the main thing is because these are all related, and they really mainly focus on relaxation and getting yourself into a better state, because that is something that helps alleviate so many different issues. But that's another story for another day. Let's look out for, it's been 46 minutes, 50 seconds now. This album coming out is Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists. It's going to be a 3x3 cool matrix. I came up with this on a bike ride from the train station, which took me about like 30 or 40 minutes. I started thinking about it on the train, but man, I'm really excited about this, and I really feel like this is going to help a lot of people. So look out for that. I'm going to launch that. If you don't know who I am, my name is Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander. I'm the creator of a UniquilibriuM podcast on Anchor. I'm going to put the link there. That's inspired by another one of my programs called HypnoAthletics, Exercising Your Mind. I'm really excited about this album, Neutralizing Naughty Narcissists, and I'll catch you on the next wave. Stay well.